Welcome to Norse Talk, information on the gods. I am Red Bearded Viking. This is Red Dranger, and tonight, you guys, we're going over chapter 9 in the Asatru by Patricia Lafayllve. And as always, guys, welcome. If you're catching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe and that like button for us. Leave some comments. Also, guys, if you're here with us on TikTok, in our bios, our beacons pages have links to our Instagram, the Discord, the merch store, which the merch has been going hot, you guys. We're actually getting ready to drop another 10% discount for you guys to carry you through until Christmas for the holidays. We're going to drop that later this evening, you guys. And then also the links for the books, the current book and the next book is in my bio as well on the Beacons page, you guys. And as always, don't forget to hit those 3 support pages and help keep this going, you guys. So, Red, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. I wanted to give everybody a quick reminder that we are doing the Secret Santa on Discord right now. So right now, guys, on the Discord channel under General at the bottom, there is a hashtag that says Secret Santa. And basically what we're doing is that anybody that signs up on that page with their TikTok username towards the holidays, we are going to be doing a random draw of all those names, and anybody that participates is going to be able to create a video dedicated to the person that they're chosen. Me and Redbeard will also be participating, so you will have a chance of one of us either doing a shout out video to you in our regular faces the way we are now, or in one of our cosplays if that's kind of what you're more interested in.
No, remember we were going to do 2. We were going to do one on our main account and one on our
Yes.
backup. One is a
Yeah.
regular
So
person, and one is
as
our one of our characters.
yeah.
So you guys will have 2 chances at each of ours to get our videos in that Secret Santa giveaway.
Yeah.
So, because I'll just put the
The
names
link
in a
for the YouTube.
randomizer and hand them out.
Yes, the link for the YouTube should be in both of our beacons.
Yep.
If not, those links are in the Discord. This is why the Discord is the community hub, guys. If you're not in there already, please be in there. When we get into doing things like the mead making night and stuff like that, Discord is going to play a huge role because that's going to be a very interactive night. So if you're not following the Discord, um, you're going to be missing out on some cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then also, guys, um, on Wednesday night we'll be starting chapter 10, which is runes, charms, and magic, and we're breaking that down into 3 different nights to go over this chapter. So on Wednesday night, you guys, we will be going over page 121 through the second paragraph on page 124 is where we're going to stop. And then we'll pick it back up on Monday and go into talking about the actual runes. And then the following Wednesday, we'll talk about the casting of the runes and bind runes and stuff like that. So that will be broken down into 3 different episodes, you guys, just to make sure that we give enough time on each part of this
Yeah.
chapter to learn as much as we can all learn together.
And those episodes might look a little bit different because we are reaching out to some members in the community that have a decent amount of experience both with rune casting and bind runes. Hopefully they're available and they can come share their knowledge with you guys because I think that would be super cool.
Definitely. So, did you have a good weekend, Red?
It was busy, but yeah, it was good. I did
Yeah, mine
a
wasn't
paint
too bad.
yesterday and super sore from. So once again yesterday I did a paint after Arms Day at the gym because apparently that's just what I do now. Um, yeah, so it was a good weekend. How about you?
Yeah, mine wasn't too bad. And then, like the last 2 days, it's been snowing. So we got
Yeah,
like
we've gotten snow here the last 2 days too. That's interesting.
yeah, we got like between 6 and 8 inches, real heavy wet snow.
Yeah.
And so this is the first real snowfall. So I go out to um, start the snowblower because it's pretty thick in the driveway, and put gas in the snowblower. Haven't started it up this year, you know, It's one that you can plug in and hit the start button and everything. Big heavy duty snowblower.
Yeah.
Only like 2 years old. Used it maybe a handful of times. Can't get the damn thing to start.
Well, that's no good.
So I was fighting with it all day yesterday, and I tried to get it going again today because we got more snow overnight, and still couldn't get it started. So me and my roommate picked it up and put it on the desk, and I brought it in the house
Yeah.
because I figured maybe there was a little bit of gas left in the line from last year,
Just stale.
and because it's been so cold, since I hadn't even put gas in it yet, maybe it froze. So I had it in the house for like a half hour, and I plugged it in the house and fired it up. First try, it fired right up.
Ah, that's good. So it was just
So
some
I've been
stale
fighting
gas.
a day and a half with it when all I had to do was carry it inside and let it defrost for the first time this year. That's all right. I made the kids shovel the driveway.
There you go. That's kids are good for it. It teaches responsibility.
All right, we're ready to go into chapter 9. I'm going to let Red start us out so he can tell us how to pronunciate these words.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my best rendition of this, and then I'm going to give you what they translate into, and I am going to refer to them as what they translate into for the rest of the night, because me saying these two words over and over again is going to lead to shenanigans. So, the first word that we are going to go over is Innangardh, and that literally translates to in yard, so an enclosed in yard. The second word is Utangardh, and that translates into out yard. So it's important that we remember those two distinctions. When we refer to Innangardh, it's in yard, Utangardh, out yard.
Yeah, and from here out, guys, we're just going to say in yard and out yard instead of trying to continuously pronounce those words, which we're probably pronouncing wrong in the first place.
Yeah. So the author first describes the Innangardh, and basically she lays that out to describe that that is anybody that is inside your close circle. So that could be family members, kindred members. We're going to talk about kindred a little bit later on in the chapter. Chosen family, people that are close to you. And with those type of relationships, that's when you're going to feel obligations to those people. A friend, somebody that's close to you, that's the person that you're going to help move. That's the person that you're going to talk to. When it gets into Utangardh, it is people that are outside of that. And
right. So
those,
then you got the yep.
Yeah.
Then you got the outside. So
Yes.
those would be the people that you may know who they are, but you don't know them. You don't know them well enough for you to want to go do things for them or for you to make an oath with them because you know of them and who they are, but you don't personally know them. And
Yes.
those are considered your out yards. It's just because you know them, you don't really know them. So that gets into the out yards compared to the in yards, which are people that you have a relationship, don't just know. So that's
Yes.
kind of the difference is where you are in knowing them, whether you know them well enough to have some kind of relationship with them, or if you just know them but you don't have any kind of relations with them.
Yeah. It's really interesting that, and again, I'm just briefly going to go back in time here a little bit. The way the authors laid out the chapters to introduce us to different concepts by first talking about the ancestors and then into the concepts of creation and time and cosmology. Now we're getting into more of the social structure, and we are again seeing that balance is important with that. The author describes that you have an obligation to the people in your inner circle in one form or another. You support each other. You're there for each other. Where with the people on the outside, you're still civil with them, but you don't have that inane obligation to them. You're not going to volunteer to help a stranger you see moving on the side of the street, where if you ran across somebody you knew who was struggling with their snowblower, you'd give them a hand.
Yeah, so then it just kind of talks about the gods being your innards as well, because they are part of our belief, and a lot of heathens do consider themselves to be descendants of the gods.
Yeah.
So ancestors, they're their ancestors. So at that point, we consider the gods part of our Inyards as well. And it goes on to talk about the Azir and the Vanir and how they were allied with some of the giants and everything like that. So they considered them their Inyards, but then their enemies were their Outyards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really
And then,
interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, bud.
oh no, and then the only other thing that I was gonna say is, um, at that point, it starts breaking down into the Venn diagram portion of the book, which we
Yeah.
both were talking about earlier and found very interesting.
Yeah, the fact that the author chose to use a Venn diagram, I found really interesting, especially with some of the other symbolism that exists in Norse paganism. Um, I'm going to read this part out fairly verbatim, and then I'm going to be holding up a diagram to show you guys here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to hold up the diagram and then I'm going to read because it's going to be easier that way. So if you guys don't know what a Venn diagram is, that is the basic Venn diagram. This represents you, and this represents the things that intercede with you. Okay? So the simplest way to understand Innangardh and Utangardh, in-yard and out-yard, is by considering a Venn diagram. The smallest possible circle and the point at which all other circles coincide is self. You are the center of your personal world, your own Innangardh. Your family is also a circle, and you are a member of your family. Therefore, your family is Innangardh. Is Innangardh to you. So,
Right. So when it's talking about that, you guys, it's like, so when you look at the diagram and you look at the white portion in the center, that's you. So now you take you take the circles around it. The first circle is going to be your family. So they're going to intersect with you. And then you take the second circle. Now the second circle is going to be your kinship. Um, the kin are the people that aren't necessarily family, but you consider family. They're the ones that you call your brothers and sisters. They're the ones that you make pacts and oaths with, that you consider a lot of times even closer than your actual family, because these are more your chosen family, where the other circle is your ancestral family, which goes back to not only your parents, brothers, and sisters, but also your grandparents and your aunts and uncles and your grandparents' parents, and on back into your lineage, is what the one circle represents. And then when you take the other circle, which is your kinship, those are your chosen family. But at certain points, they cross because some of it, your actual family may know some of your kinship family, where not all of your family is going to, because that circle involves your whole ancestry. So only like the closer family members is where those two circles are going to intersect together. So then what's the next circle, Red?
okay. So we ended with you. A chosen group of heathens can take A chosen group of heathens can take many forms. One of them is called a kindred. Kindreds are made up of members who have chosen to ally themselves with another and who are often considered akin to family. You will hear heathens refer to other kindred members as kindred brother or kin sister, which indicates how the kindred feels about one another. This is the simplistic example of what can be completed relationship model, but understanding is that a kindred may or may not be actual family, but they are still in regard to another. Other types of groups can form as well. Some heathens are more tribal in this structure, and others practice a brand of heathenry called theodism, where a group with a bloody hell, hierarchy structure is called. Again, guys, I apologize. I have a tied tongue, and there's some words that just don't work for me. Called a theod. In addition, there are also fellowships where typically no oaths are sworn to another, yet a sense of family remains solid. Your chosen kindred or group is in the Venn circle that contains you, but may not be the same circle as your family. Now there are three, I don't even know how to say that word, in your family and your kindred, everyone in your family, which includes the far-flung relatives, both past and present. So there's a quick, when they're kind of addressing, oh, sorry, I'm going to take this down now because I'm having a hard time talking when I'm looking at the back of the paper. So basically, I used oaths as a way to kind of connect myself to this description in the chapter. There's a sentence that the author says is that a modern heathen is not going to hear the oath of somebody in their outyard because they have no way of knowing if that oath is going to be followed. Whereas the in-yard, again, especially with the kindred or people that you built kinship with, you're more likely to want to hear those oaths because they are important to you and they're people that are involved in your life. And it's really interested. Me and Redbeard had kind of a theological discussion about how that looks with modern heathenry, with what we're doing here tonight. You see, with TikTok in particular, you see a lot of different types of clans, a lot of different groups, a lot of different content organizations, and you do see them work with each other in that kind of way. Some are super close, some are super distant, but they all have a place, and again, it all falls back to that balance. Again, you can't have an inner yard without an outer yard. No,
Like you
not
can
everybody
simply
is inner family.
right, because you can simply take a look at it as like when you're talking about these different kindred with the different families and clans and everything like that. Like you can look at it in the perspective that if you take us, the Red Room, okay, and then we intersect with the War Room,
Yeah,
and we intersect with House Being Concur, and we intersect with Sable's Discord and all those. I'm talking just Discord, you guys.
yeah,
So in these Discords, like we're the center, but we interact with all these groups. Now, there's points where these circles touch within those groups because not everybody in those groups interacts with each other, but some of those groups interact with each other as well. So that's the thin part where the two overlap, is where you have members of two different groups that still interact together and they all interact with you, but there's also members of that group that don't interact with each other but still interact with you.
yeah,
So you got to remember this is your Venn diagram when it has to do with yourself. So you have yourself, and then you've got your family, and then you've got your kin, and then you got the gods, and then you've got your close friends that you don't consider kindred, but maybe friends that you've been close with for a long time, but they're not heathens. So you don't consider them family the way you consider others family. But some of them you do, just like some of the heathens you don't consider family. So, that's where they all intertwine together, where you can have all these different aspects in your life that range out and out and out, but they all just keep intersecting in different divisions along those circles because they're all portions that don't not only work together with yourself, but work together with each other in partials.
yeah. It's really interesting. I'm really enjoying this part of the book for the exact reason that, and I think I said this in an episode not too long ago, is that when you look at the information that a lot of people have to modern heathenry, what they see is what pop culture has put forward. And what we're reading here is a very complex way of looking at interpersonal dynamics. The forethought and the thought process that went into that, just creating, again, the interpersonal people to people dynamics and how they interacted with each other and how they valued different sets of relationships. This is really complex thinking for even now. Going back then, and then not to mention tying that into the gods and tying that into that. The author spoke briefly about how, because the gods were considered in yard to so many people, the enemies of the of the gods would then, in essence, out of necessity, have to be in the out yard of those who followed those gods. You couldn't have you. Okay, so if you were a follower of Odin, you probably weren't going to spend a whole lot of time praying to Fenrir. You know what I mean? It was, and that sounds really, really simplistic. But again, if you look on the grander scheme of things, it is a really intriguing thought process that they, again, with no electronic communication, living miles and miles away from each other, sailing to different continents and settling in different places, that this social structure, this and the complexity of it, again, with a culture that did not keep written text at the time, still developed. So while we were talking about the Venn diagrams, I had another image pop into my head. And I know that this isn't the source material for this image, but with everything we've just talked about, the social dynamics, the fundamental way of thinking, I'm going to pose an image to you guys that I want you to think on, so that when we get into questions and answer period, maybe you guys can have some interesting comments. But I want you to think of the Venn diagram and the way that the links interacted with each other. And then I want you to look at a simple Norse knot and how theory-based this knot is doing the same thing that Venn diagram. And I know this is a very simplistic knot, but I want you guys to remember that when we look back at a lot of cultural significant imagery from the Norse period, knotwork and the interwinding of things was very important. And I'm sure that the theory of that is going to be added on as we go, but I found it really, really interesting that there were similarities between so much of the imagery and so much of the description of the interpersonal relationships between people.
No, I totally agree. And then you guys, like, we get to the last part of this book now, or book, the last part of this chapter, not book. Tried to end the book at chapter 9. Okay. And this is where it talks about the meditation part. So I'm just going to read this part for you guys. And this says the first thing you need to do in order to prepare for this meditation is to spend time considering the various circles you belong to. It may be that your personal Innangardh is tighter and smaller. It may be that you do not consider Americans in general as your Innangardh, for instance. It may be that even your regional community is not your Innangardh. Heathen religion is community based, but your community may not include anyone outside of your group, kindred or otherwise. It might be helpful to write down lists of people whom you consider Innangardh and whom you consider Outyard. Remember again that Outyard does not necessarily mean enmity, for strangers are considered Outguard. Sit or lie down comfortably. Focus on your breathing, and as your breathing deepens, feel your body relax. Picture a place in nature that you know well, and then place yourself within that picture. As you continue to meditate, imagine that your family is with you. Note all the members and think about your relationship to them. In most cases, these will be positive or neutral relationships. Negative relationships can create a sense of outyard between yourself and that person. This is too natural. Avoid focusing on the negative relationships. For now, it is time to reinforce your Innangardh. Next, imagine your friends and consider them in the same ways you did your family. If you are kindred, tribe, fellowship, or any other kind of heathen grouping, do the same with them. Note in your mind any connections between these three groups. Chances are, for instance, that you are friends with your kindred members as well as considering them your chosen family. Spend some time focusing on these connections. These members of your Innangardh and how they relate to you. Imagine, for instance, lines extending out from the center of yourself to each member of these groups, family, friends, and kindred, connecting them all to you. Now imagine the lines connecting some of them to each other. Some lines may form your kindred has chosen to connect itself to each member, for instance, and some may not. See where those connective lines meet, intersect, and connect back to you. This is your Inyard. When you are finished, take a few deep breaths, leave the place in nature, and return to Midgard by focusing on your breath, your physical body, and the space around you. Listen for noises, take in any familiar smells, wiggle your toes, and open your eyes. Remain conscious in your Inyard as you move forward in your life. Conscientious of your inner.
That's a
So
really interesting meditation.
I like that meditation because it makes you kind of focus um, on a lot of the people that are around you and
Yeah,
that you surround yourself with, and your family, and how they all interconnect together. Um, I definitely think it's a good exercise because it kind of gives you a sense of being, of who you are and how everything's connected.
exactly. And I mean, again, this author, again, this is my opinion. This author has done a really great job at structuring this book because in the previous chapters we've learned to kind of look at the world through a bit of a different lens. And now we're being asked to kind of look at our interpersonal relationships again using a lens that is a little bit foreign to a lot of people nowadays that have come from specific ideologies. And I think that this is going to be a really interesting meditation to try because I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, especially if you start bringing in the modernness of just how we're connecting right now.
Right.
There are groups of people that are closer digitally than they are with a lot of their own family in real life. There are people that most likely there are people in this chat room right now that don't know another heathen anywhere near them. They're on their own where they are, and the fact that we're expanding our social circles and our interpersonal relationships in ways online have really shifted how that is going to look modernly. And I think this is a really important chapter for everybody. I didn't want to go here, but I'm going to go here anyway. When we look back at the recent history of the Norse pagan community, especially just on TikTok, and we've seen some of the conflicts and eruptions that have been taking place, I think that exercises like this might be a really important way to try to understand that not everybody does need to fall into your inner yard. You can keep people at a distance that don't align with your vibe, and that's okay. You're not shunning them. You're just you're picking your inner circle because you can do that. Each of us has that ability to look at what we want in our life and bring people into it that help with that enrich that instead of tearing it down or dragging it out. And I don't know, the philosophy behind this chapter is just massive, and it's something I'll be thinking on for probably the next couple of days now.
Right, and it just goes along with everything else in this book so far. It definitely makes you start looking more internally,
Yeah,
um, not only at your life, but at um, where you find yourself, where you're going,
yeah,
living in the now. Um, you know, your relationship with the gods, and as they grow and as you learn, because it makes you look internally
mm-hmm.
to be, and the more internally that you can look, it seems like the more clearly you outwardly word your
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we look at the theory from the last chapter, from the concepts of time, and we think about the way that the author and mythology describes the past being locked and there not being a word for future because future is derived in the actions of the present, how does that fit in to the actions and choices you make with the people you bring into your lives? That the people that you bring into your inner yard. How those again are present choices that are going to cast your future, and it becomes again really interesting to think when it comes to kindred and people that are involved in it and people that come into your life, where that fate versus choice question starts coming into play again. And it's just super fascinating. It's super fascinating.
right. And it's just like Red and myself, like we consider each other kindred, like we
Mm-hmm.
consider each other family. We're not real family, but we consider each other brothers,
Yeah,
and me and him have never met anywhere but on a screen.
yeah,
Like we have yet to meet in person, but we have a closer relationship with each other than we do with most people in our families.
yeah. And again, I'm gonna taking this outside of Norse mythology just for a moment. We've all gone through this pandemic together, and we've all seen a change in the way that we've had to live our lives, and it's been different for different people depending on which region you are in, but it has had an effect on you and the way that you reach out with your inner circle. There were some of us that had no choice but to reach out virtually, and what's coming of that is really interesting. I'm not saying it's all positive, I'm not saying it's all negative, but there is a really interesting dynamic at play right now, especially with modern heathenry in its uprising right now, with how modern heathens are reaching out to each other. Because most of us do have a similar background story where we were either once Christian or involved with Christian life. And I mean just by living in the modern world, especially in North America, Christianity and its fundamental way of thinking has had an impact on your life, whether you want to admit it or not. Monotheism has had an impact because it has had a change to the way that people have been told their morals should be laid out, have been told how to look at creation, how to look at time, how to look at relationships, how to look at the ancestors, how to pay respect to the environment. Modern heathenry is really coming up and really pushing the comfort zones of that because there are a lot of very deep fundamental differences. Um, Last week we talked about creationism, and with monotheism, the God was there before creation. He was there before the canvas to which he painted the universe. In Norse mythology, that canvas existed and the gods were brought into it.
Right, exactly. So, and it just goes to show, just the way we start to view things differently.
Yeah.
The way that it starts to open our eyes a little bit more, the more that we learn and the more that we take
Mm-hmm.
in. And I mean, that's one of the aspects of Norse paganism is it's a constant learning process.
Yeah.
It's doing the homework. It's doing the reading. And me and Red were discussing this the other day. How I think I'm getting so much more out of this book with us reading it together and
Yeah.
discussing the chapters than I would get out of the book if all I did was sit down and read the book. Actually, having to discuss the chapter and what's in the chapter really
Yeah.
gets my mind going a lot more than if I just read the book for what it is from front to back. And I didn't spend much time theorizing or questioning or actually like pondering
Yeah.
what's going on because I'm reading the book for enjoyment instead of reading the book as a lesson, as something that I'm trying to take in and learn. And that's where I think this whole Norse talk has really been a big help to probably not only me but other people,
Yeah.
because it's really making you dig into those chapters and really think about those chapters instead of just reading the chapter.
Yeah, and it's really and me and Redbeard have really we've taken a step back a few times because every time we do one of these episodes, me and him carry what we've talked about and what we've learned into our personal lives, and we have had several really interesting conversations days later after these episodes about how we have rolled that theory into our life or observed it in the living world, and it's been really interesting. um, while you were talking, I had another kind of thing pop into my head, and I was thinking again back to the chapter on the land elves and the split soul. So there is a theory amongst some pagans that when a soul passes, it can go to more than one place. You can become a land elf, you can become a guardian, while still a part of you being in one of the great halls, whichever it can be. And that again, when you start talking about the kindred and chosen family and how interpersonally this intertwines with each other, it makes me think back and want to listen to a conversation at a table back then about somebody talk about how the ancestors are relevant to their inner circle, especially the ones that do believe that they are. All right, so really quickly, with the creation gods creating um, man out of the driftwood, or whichever way you want to go about believing that, there is a group of heathens that trace the original ancestors back to those creation gods. So when you get into that, again, talking about them again being part of your in yard because of that reason, it makes it really interesting to look at how the I don't even really know how to put it fully into words yet because it's such a big concept to me, but how the split soul would play into that, how an
Right.
offering to an ancestor that's I don't know. I'm gonna think more on it over the next couple of days because I think that there's something really interesting there that I haven't cued in on yet.
Well, and that's what I like too is how each chapter, because we have spent the time like really learning about the chapter.
Yeah,
Each chapter has carried more weight into the next chapter, and it keeps bringing us back to the previous chapters and making us think about something, and sometimes maybe what we thought when we first read that chapter, now that we know a little, we have a little bit more information on something,
yeah.
maybe what we thought changed a little bit, which I find interesting too, is because throughout, like, that's the thing, it's like you're watching yourself grow the farther we get along in these chapters,
Yeah.
because you're looking internally, you're looking at things in different ways, you're hearing different ways of looking at it, and it's kind of starting to mold you and help you grow.
It's really interesting how, and again, I'm speaking strictly personally right now, that how using some of these theories in my day to day life is changing my perception on certain aspects of it. And it's concerning and interesting at the same time with different topics because again there was a brief note by the author in the last chapter that said a heathen strives to do the right thing in all things because they know that it is in the present and the choices that you make in the present that will determine your future.
Yep.
And that has been on my mind a lot since we read that.
Yeah, it really makes you stop and think a little bit more before you make a decision. Um, you tend to put a lot more thought into it than maybe you were
Exactly.
putting into the decisions you made before, because you're starting to think more of, you know, if I go this way, what are my choices going to be then compared to what my
Yeah.
choices will be if I go this way? And it's starting to make you really make sure that you're headed on the path you want to be on.
Yeah.
It's giving you the freedom to take that path because those choices are always there. But each, like we discussed before, as you take each path, as you make a decision, those choices narrow. So
Yes.
now you got even less choices. And as time goes on, those just keep narrowing with the decisions that you make. So if
So
your
do you think
decisions aren't focused on where you want to go, you could veer your path and you may end up losing that choice altogether because you may get too far along before you decide maybe I should have made the other choice.
so? I have an interesting theory question for you. When we talk about choice and how, again, when we start talking, if we again kind of use a Venn diagram to talk about choice and how as you move it kind of seems to restrict, where the Venn with friends and Innangardh seems to grow. As you move through life, your choices become a little bit more limited based on the actions and the choices that you've made in that life. Is that theory not then true, that what you can or can't accomplish in your life is also very dependent on the people you choose, your kindred, your chosen family, the people you choose to bring into your own personal inner circle? Are they people that are going to see you succeed, or people that are going to tear you down? And I think that's another theory that all of us um, should be taking a minute to look at every once in a while.
Right. Because it's like these people that I'm bringing in as kindred and as family and everything are are they going to help me move forward, or are they going to try and prevent me and try and keep me in the same spot?
Yeah,
Or are they going to take me backwards?
exactly. And I know the Venn diagram is a simplistic way of looking at it, but I mean, again, when you look at imagery, and again, not just in Norse mythology, but that a variation of that symbol and the intertwining lines and how they have an effect on each other have been used to describe fate, have been used to describe interpersonal relationships, have been used to describe connecting to the gods and other deities. It is an image that is ever present, and it is again one of those theories that does align with the living world, the natural world. It is a representation of that balance, and that it shifts, it changes. Who is in your yard today could look very different tomorrow based on the decisions that you are making right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, this has been a great chapter, you guys. It was very interesting. Left you a lot to think on. Definitely left you a lot to think on. Also, remember, guys, next or on Wednesday, we're going to be starting the next chapter on runes. And remember, guys, we are going to start on page 121 on Wednesday, and we are going to stop on in the second paragraph of page 124. We're breaking this chapter up into three parts, you guys. So it'll be Wednesday, next Monday, and the following Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're going to do that first part, and then we're going to devote next week. We're going to devote the first episode to the runes themselves and talking about the runes. And then the second episode next week, we are going to devote to casting runes and mind runes and that part of the chapter. Because we definitely want to make sure we're giving the attention that's deserved to these different parts of the next chapter. And we're making sure that we're discussing them in a way that's going to be beneficial, and we're not leaving anything out or anything like that, you guys.
Yeah. So a little bit of homework for everybody that's in the room. We are going, when we do get to the runes, we are going to be going over each specific rune and its meaning in this book. This book's meaning for some of the runes and some of the description for, sorry, this part, when we do hit runes, is going to be talking about Elder Futhark. So my homework to you guys is, especially those of you that do have this book, please go to the runes section, find where it describes the meaning behind each rune, and see if you can find another source of literature, whether it be online or physical, that describes them either differently or has additions or subtractions from the source material that we have here now.
Yeah, definitely. And then also, you guys, don't forget to get your names in the Secret Santa on that Discord. Anybody that's willing to do a video for the holidays, we're going to pick random people and assign them to people, and you're going to do a video for somebody else just to say happy holidays and maybe help boost their page a little bit. Just something a little fun and at random. So anybody that wants to participate in that, jump on the Discord. It's under Secret Santa in the general area on the Discord. And also, guys, I'll be putting up that 10% discount code for the merch that will take us through Christmas for the holidays to get that out there. We'll run that for you guys for a holiday special on the merch. So we'll put out a 10% off promo code. I'll put it on the Discord for you guys. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. And if you're on YouTube again, you guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know what you thought about the episode, you guys. If you're joining us tonight here on TikTok, hit that YouTube, hit the Discord, you guys. Check out the merch. See if there's anything you like and you want to buy for yourself or somebody else for the holidays. That 10% coupon will be out there, you guys. It'll be on the Discord. And there's those 3 donation pages as well, you guys, to help us out, to keep this going. Don't forget, if you have any time to help us out a little bit, if you want to, we greatly appreciate it, you guys. It's been an amazing night. Do you have anything else before we jump into Q&A, Red?
Yeah, real quick. We are now at just over the halfway mark for the Asatru. So I want to remind everybody, the book we are going to be working on next is the Study Havamal, and the link for the Study Havamal is on Redbeard's page in his beacon. So if you don't already have a copy, or if you're curious as to exactly which version of, because there are a few Study Havamals out there, if you're curious of which one we are going to use, the link is there. So if you do want to participate, I do strongly encourage you guys get a copy of that book. The Study Havamal is a really interesting book, for the reason that it's going to give us multiple translations of each verse, and the book itself gives you a space and an area to take notes and write on. So the Study Havamal in this setting with all you awesome people, especially when we get into the question and answer period, the amount of information and theory and opinion that we're going to be able to bring up over every verse is going to be hopefully rather substantial. So please get your copy, because trying to get those notes back in there and missing ideas and trying to go back later is always harder than just having it available then and there. So please jump on the beacons, get a copy of your book, and be excited to start towards the second half of January, our second book. That being said, also remember that the merch in the merch store is related directly to the book that we're on. This book, the merch, was the Yggdrasil tree in red with a black background. Once this book is gone, that merch disappears. So if you want a piece of memorabilia to remember this part of the book, whether it be a shirt, a coffee mug, whatever, we are quickly running out of time before you will not be able to get those colors anymore. And the stuff that we have coming up next is going to be slightly different. So please jump in there and grab it if you want. This was an awesome chapter. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you. And I'll kick it back to Redbeard.
Yeah, definitely. It was a thinker of a night tonight, you guys, with this chapter. But as always, guys, this is a we thing, not a me thing, not a him thing, not a you thing. We can't do this without each and every one of you. So you guys, stay amazing, stay creating, and as always, be awesome, and we'll see you next time.